A security researcher built a fake tool, ran some Instagram ads, and watched it install itself into 26,000 AI agents.
Every scanner said it was clean. The scanners weren't wrong. They were just looking at the wrong thing.
The gap between what the scanners checked and what they missed is the problem. The files were fine. It wasn't a false negative. The scanners did exactly what they were built to do.
They were built to look at code. The problem is the code wasn't the weapon. The weapon was what the tool did once it was trusted.
The malicious part only exists when the tool is actually running, when it's connected to a live agent, inside a real company's workflow, doing things. Static code has no victims. Runtime behavior does.
Static analysis, which is what most security scanners do, reads the file like you'd read a resume. It checks what's there. It doesn't check what happens when you hire the person.
This problem has been around in traditional software security for years. AI agents make it worse because the whole point of an agent is that it takes actions. It connects to your email, your calendar, your databases. It does things autonomously.
So you're not just installing software that might behave badly, you're handing authority to something with no obligation to behave.
And 26,000 companies or developers looked at a security badge, decided that was enough, and handed over that authority.
The marketplace model is the real pressure point here. These tools work like app stores. You publish, you get listed, people install. The assumption is that the listing process caught anything dangerous, but the listing process is just running the same scanners.
This experiment proved the distribution works. A fake tool sitting quietly inside 26,000 agents doing nothing until it does something. Someone else could use the same method with very different intentions.
And the agents themselves have no idea. They're designed to trust the tools they're given. That's the whole architecture. You build an agent, you give it tools, it uses the tools. The skepticism isn't built in.
This attack pattern is old. Supply chain attacks, compromising something upstream so everything downstream is affected, have been a known risk in software for decades. SolarWinds, XZ utils. The method is the same. The infrastructure it runs on is new.
Except in those cases, you needed real technical sophistication. This one took Instagram ads and a convincing listing page.
The security infrastructure that companies are trusting right now was built for a different kind of software that sits still. AI agents don't sit still. Nobody knows how to build a scanner that checks what something does rather than what it is. She was owed £7,000. That's not a trivial amount, but it's also not enough to justify hiring a lawyer who charges that by the hour. So most people in that situation just don't pursue it. They write it off and move on.
Which is how a lot of injustice stays injustice. Not because the law isn't on your side, but because the law is expensive to access.
She paid £400. The AI firm handled the legal prep, drafted her witness statements, and when the other side's human lawyers came back with a counterclaim, the AI handled that too.
And she won.
In an English court, which isn't a small thing. English litigation is formal, procedurally strict, adversarial in the old-fashioned sense. It's not a system designed to be navigated by amateurs or software.
The other side had human lawyers, professional ones, presumably billing at rates that made $400 look like a rounding error.
And lost.
There's a concept called the justice gap, the space between people who have a legal problem and people who can actually afford to do anything about it. In England and Wales, legal aid, government-funded lawyers for people who can't afford their own, has been cut so dramatically that millions of people go to court without any representation at all. They show up and just hope.
£400 doesn't close that gap entirely, but it moves the line.
Nobody's answered what happens when both sides have AI lawyers, whether that just resets the arms race at a cheaper price point, the same imbalance just running faster, or whether something structurally different is possible.
And courts themselves were built around a certain assumption of who shows up and how prepared they are. That assumption is a design choice. It can change, or it can be outrun.
For most of hacking's history, the hard part was the human. You needed someone who actually understood the system they were breaking into, the architecture, the vulnerabilities, where the weak points were. AI changed that by helping write the malicious code, the actual instructions that exploit a weakness. But a researcher is now saying that's the old problem.
The new problem is that AI can run the whole operation, not assist, run it. A cyber attack has phases. You find a target, you probe it for weaknesses, scanning its defenses the way you'd test a lock before picking it. You write something that exploits those weaknesses, you get in, you do damage, you leave. That used to require a skilled person steering every step. What's being described now is a system that moves through all of those phases without anyone at the wheel.
The self-driving car comparison is the right one. GPS tells you to turn left. A self-driving car just turns. One requires a driver who understands where they're going. The other doesn't need anyone to understand anything.
The barrier to running a sophisticated attack used to be expertise. It took years to develop. It was rare. That scarcity gave defenders something to work with. There are only so many people in the world capable of pulling off an attack at that level.
An autonomous system doesn't get tired. It doesn't need to understand what it's doing to do it.
And it can run 1,000 probes while you're asleep. That's not a marginal improvement over a skilled human attacker. That's a different category of threat.
The security industry has always been a contest between attackers and defenders, both sides learning, both sides adapting. What changes when one side doesn't need to learn anything at all?
Right now, the people running autonomous attack systems are still mostly nation-states and well-resourced criminal organizations. Building the capability costs something: time, expertise, infrastructure. If that cost goes to near zero, the threat model changes for everyone, not just governments.
The US government just moved a major deadline 5 years earlier than planned, and it has to do with data that's already been stolen.
Encryption is how governments and banks scramble sensitive information so only the right people can read it. The problem is quantum computers. Machines that don't exist yet at full scale could eventually crack that scrambling like it's nothing.
So adversaries are stealing encrypted government data right now and sitting on it, waiting for the hardware to catch up.
The previous deadline to switch to quantum-resistant encryption was 2035. The new executive order moves it to 2030. NIST, the federal standards body, has had the new algorithms ready for almost 2 years.
Voluntary just became mandatory, and the agencies that haven't started yet are already behind.
If you want to learn more about quantum computers, our Pulse Deep Dive show recently wrapped up a 3-part series called Quantum: The Unbreakable Code is Breaking. Listen on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. 3 people now have a coin-sized device sitting inside their skulls, and it's not controlling anything, it's listening.
Brain tumors are usually treated with surgery, radiation, drugs. The idea that you could treat cancer like an electrical malfunction in the brain is a different category of thinking entirely.
The implant delivers mild electrical signals to the tumor site. It was only in place for 30 minutes during surgery that was already happening for other reasons. But that's the point. The first human test just happened.
We already use electrical signals to manage epilepsy. The logic here is that tumor behavior has an electrical signature too, and that you might be able to interfere with it.
Nobody knows yet if 30 minutes of signals does anything lasting, but the question itself is new.
The company that owns the New York Stock Exchange just partnered with a major crypto exchange to put real stocks on a blockchain.
A blockchain is a kind of shared digital ledger, the same underlying technology that makes cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin work. Putting stocks on one would mean trading them the same way people trade crypto tokens today.
Intercontinental Exchange and OKX, and they brought in Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, to help run it. The pitch is that anyone with a crypto wallet gets direct access to equity markets. No broker, no clearinghouse, just the asset and the wallet.
Whether that actually happens is a long way from a joint venture announcement, but the institution that built Wall Street just decided crypto infrastructure was worth betting on.
This has been the Pulse Brief for Tuesday, June 23, 2026.
Back tomorrow. Singularity Pulse is for informational purposes only. Nothing here is financial, legal, or professional advice. Views expressed are our own.
I'm Knox, Every Saturday on Pulse Deep Dive, one story told in acts. This season, how AI happened, who really invented the internet, and going back to the moon 53 years later. New chapter every Saturday. Find it wherever you listen.
Origins is a different kind of show. Every Sunday, we investigate the forces that shape the modern world, the geography, the science, the commerce, the decisions made centuries ago that are still playing out today. Find it wherever you listen to this podcast.